Good afternoon. Thanks. Sorry for the slight delay there. When you're doing back-to-back sessions, you've just got a couple of things you've got to do really fast. Once again, I'm not going to spend ages chatting to you. I'm going to just introduce our two fantastic speakers, and who are going to be talking about how to get the most out of what you have to offer. And we thought these two are absolute experts at doing it, and much better to talk about it than I am. So we have Julie Falconer, who's a fantastic blogger, an Instagrammer, and all-round influencer at A Lady in London, who's going to talk first. Followed that by Kash Bhattacharya, I think. So it's hard to pronounce. Who blogs and creates other content over at Budget Traveller. So yeah, no more wasting time. Here's Julie.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I appreciate that some of you came through rain and tube delays and tube strikes to get here. So we really appreciate your time. I just want to get started right away into how you can use what you have to offer as a brand to work successfully with influencers. And so what I want to start out with, of course, is by saying that I'd be hypocritical talking about social media and telling you not to use it. So please feel free to have your phones and laptops and everything else out and open and in use. I am A Lady in London on Instagram and Twitter and everywhere else you can possibly find me. That's also the name of my blog. And WTM is WTM_London. They've got a lot going on Twitter today as well. So please feel free to use that if you'd like to. Just so you know who's up here in front of you, a brief introduction to myself. I am originally from San Francisco, which is why my accent might sound a bit funny to some of you. But I moved to London just over 11 years ago. And when I moved, I started a blog called A Lady in London. And it's a bad name because it's actually about travel all over the world. But I do represent London. And it's been my full-time job for just over 9 years now, or just under 9 years now. And it's been rated one of the top blogs in the UK. So hopefully that gives me some credibility to be speaking about influencer marketing today. I also do a lot of teaching, lecturing, and public speaking in London and around the world, and hopefully that gives me some credibility too. So with that said, getting into getting the most out of what you have to offer. So I just want to start out by talking about the importance of knowing your brand, because I think before we even talk about working with influencers, it's important for us to talk about how we can successfully partner with them in terms of what kind of content is actually going to work. And it's really important to start out by knowing your brand and knowing what your brand actually has to offer. Again, if you're a hotel, you're not just a bed, you're not just a roof over someone's head for the night. There's a lot more you can offer people. If you're an airline, you're not just a seat on a plane, you're a lot more than that. What can you offer? What's your USP? What's your unique selling point? Knowing that can be really powerful in understanding what kind of content will actually resonate with people. But it's not just that. You also want to go beyond that. You want to think about what is it that you're actually offering people that goes beyond the literal offering and is actually maybe more of a lifestyle. Maybe you're actually offering people luxury. Maybe you're actually offering people social status. Maybe you're offering them a lifestyle they aspire to. And that can be really powerful with content as well. Example here is GoPro. This is just a screenshot of their Instagram feed, and you can see they do an amazing job, not just with high-quality content, but also with knowing exactly what they're actually offering people that's not just a camera. You can see here on their screen, they don't even usually put product placement into their Instagram photos, partly because they have a strong brand, people know what they sell, but really because they're not just selling a camera, they're selling a lifestyle. They're selling the ability to mountain bike down a cliff. They're selling the ability to scuba dive into a blue hole in Belize. And that's what people are buying when they buy a GoPro. Somebody doesn't just look around at a bunch of cameras and say, well, that one looks functional. I'll buy that one. They buy a GoPro because they want that lifestyle. They want to be associated with that lifestyle. So think about what it is your brand actually offers people and what they actually want when they are engaging with your brand or buying your products or services. Once you've done that, then you need to find the right influencers who fit with that. That's in terms of the content that they're already creating. That's in terms of the demographic that they're already reaching. And that's in terms of the style. Does their brand fit with your brand? Does their content fit with your content? I want to just show you an example of what I'm talking about here. I'm currently in a partnership with Marriott, and I have been working with them over the last couple of months. And the interesting thing about this partnership is that we probably all here know Marriott does hotels, but the partnership I'm doing with them has nothing to do with their properties or their hotels. They actually have not had me set foot in a hotel. They've not had me write or talk or photograph or Instagram about any of their properties, any of their hotels. The entire partnership is actually revolving around the areas of London that their hotels are in. And what they wanted me to do was create 6 destination guides, neighborhood guides, to the areas that they have hotels in London. Because again, they're not just offering a bed, they're offering access to these amazing neighborhoods in London that maybe a lot of people who are interested in their hotels or who even stay in their hotels have no idea what's around them. And it was a great fit because on my blog, one of the most popular styles of content I do is neighborhood guides in London. My audience loves it. It's one of the things my blog is known for. And so it was such a perfect natural fit content-wise because it's something I already do, and it's something that they wanted somebody who's local and who knows the city really well to do. And so I've been creating those guides for their website. I've been creating blog posts on my blog to direct people to them. And I've been using Instagram to promote both the guides and to send traffic to the website. And it's in the middle of the partnership, so I can't share any stats yet, but so far it's been really successful, and it's driven a lot of traffic. It's gotten my audience really engaged. And again, no mention of the hotels. It's just something that fits well content-wise with what they have to offer that just goes beyond a bed. Another example I want to share, this you might recognize Rich McCore. He's Paper Boyo on Instagram, and he does these amazing paper cutouts. And this is something that he's gotten known for. He has a huge following. He's done a book. And it's just to show an example of something where you can also partner with influencers to leverage their creativity. And Rich, you can see in this next slide, has done a partnership recently with an American brand to promote the fact that America's NFL football teams are coming over to London and are playing football here in the city. And so as a part of that partnership to promote that, he has superimposed a cutout of the Golden Gate Bridge, which is amazing, not that I'm biased, of the Golden Gate Bridge over the Thames. So just kind of bringing the US and London together in the same way that the football brings the US and London together. So it's just something where it's really kind of taken a creative take on something where it could have just been a picture of a football player or the field at Wembley or something that's a little bit more literal. But this is just a creative way to show it instead. And the last example I want to show you is more of a London-based example, but this is to show that influencers have multiple skills. Don't forget, influencers aren't just one thing. They're not just writers or just photographers or just videographers or just graphic designers. Some of them do all of those things. Some of them do some of those things very well. So do think about all the skills an influencer can offer you in order to show what you want to show about your brand. This example is the London Persian Rug Company, and they do Persian rugs. And they kind of realized, actually, it gets a bit samey to show pictures of rugs on floors in houses all the time on Instagram and on their website. And so they thought, how can we make it creative but also relevant to our target audience? And so they found me on Instagram, and they contacted me and said, look, you take pictures of streets in London that are in the residential areas where a lot of our clients are based. Can we do a photo shoot with you where you photograph our model here carrying a rug around some of the streets in London? I thought, this is amazing. I love this. So I said yes. And we did a photo shoot where I took them around to my favorite streets in London to photograph. And you can see here one of the examples. And they use these photos on their Instagram and on their website as a way to connect with the local audiences in London that are potential or current clients, and to really resonate with them on a geographic level and also on an aesthetic level. So just to wrap up, I encourage you to get creative. There's a lot that you can do in terms of showing your brand that doesn't necessarily have to be a literal interpretation of your products or services. And if you find the right influencers, there's a huge amount of scope for creativity. A lot of influencers have gotten to where they are today because they've been creative. So make sure you leverage that and make sure that you cut through the noise and stand out with great content as a result of it. Thank you very much.
So, can I hear my voice? Yes. Can you hear my voice? Yes, the clicker will help. Day 3 of WTM. I don't know how you guys are feeling, but here, I'm really excited to be here. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, World Travel Market, for having me here again on the stage. It's always an honor to represent the influencer blogger industry. It's a great responsibility, I think. 9 years of coming to WTM. This is my 9th WTM. Makes me feel kind of old. And I've got a lot of experience and a lot of interesting insights. I think the science of influencer marketing, it's kind of always evolving and changing. So I can't give you any exact answers, but hopefully you might find some tidbits of inspiration from my talk today. So my background is I'm known as a budget traveler. It's all about how to travel in style on a budget. I was National Geographic Traveler's Blogger of the Year in 2016. I won a few awards. I've been featured in The Guardian, Lonely Planet. And everybody loves a stat. 9 years of blogging, been to 50 countries, been to 400 hostels. I'm going to talk about that later. I have had over 6.5 million visits to my blog. And I get over 120,000 unique visitors a month on my blog. And for those SEO geeks here, my domain authority is 53. But what really constitutes true influence? That's where I'm hoping, I'm going to try and dig into that, and later we're going to have the Q&A. So for me, I feel that one of the key things that there's a lot of debate about what is a true, real influencer. One of the things I always think is that the best influencers who are passionate, just like, for example, Julie is passionate about luxury and passionate about London, and she shares that every day on her blog, on her Instagram feed. They really show authority. So how can you define which bloggers have real authority? I'm going to go into that. And also the other very important thing that you must remember, that the really good content creators create value for their readers. If they're not adding value to their readers and giving them something that will help them travel better, they're not doing their job. How? I'm going to go into that. So the first and foremost thing is pretty basic. You have to be a good writer to be a truly good influencer. I sometimes always say that you don't need to be a Pulitzer Prize-winning author. Sometimes it's all about giving people the content they want in a language they can understand and easily digest. That, I think, is the hallmark of a truly great content creator and influencer. What other things should you be looking at? A bit of passion, like this man here, you might remember, Back to the Future, one of my favorite movies of all time. And this is one of the great things that if you met any influencers or bloggers over the last few days, you'll always be struck about how passionate they are, how much they love what they do. I love hostels. I don't know about you. I can see a couple of scared-looking faces. Maybe you think about this. If you're old enough to remember this movie. So when I started writing about hostels 9 years ago, somebody had a great idea of launching this movie. And oh boy, every time I would mention, oh, you write about hostels. Is it just like the movie? And then you have this other image problem about hostels, which are, this is the worst picture I could get on the internet about hostels. They're not that bad. But the world of hosteling is changing, and this is one of the things that I find that the best content creators and influencers do. They have the ability to shift opinion and change the way people think about things. I wanted to try and change the way people think about hostels. So this is a hostel in Florence, which has an outdoor swimming pool and has an indoor swimming pool in winter. And it only costs 11 or 12 euros to book a dome bed, and you have access to the swimming pool. This is, again, something different. We're now in the era of experiences. That's what travelers want nowadays. This is a beautiful little hostel near Termini Station in Rome. It's called the Beehive. And they do Italian cooking classes. So the best thing that people can do is learn through their hands. So I tell the story about Steve, the owner's cooking classes on my blog. These are the things that people want to know. Other good thing that lots of content creators are now doing is they're mastering either becoming video makers or they work with a video maker. So keep that in mind also when you work with influencers. Here's a little video about the world of hostels and how it's changing. So I don't know about you, but hopefully after seeing that video, you might think a bit differently about the world of hostels. So in order to demonstrate my authority in my niche topic of budget travel, and particularly about hostels, in 2012, I wrote a book about luxury hostels. I self-published it. A lot of the bloggers and influencers you meet, a lot of them have their own self-published ebooks. Steve, who was on stage now, has a fantastic ebook about Argentina. And I think it's been downloaded over 50 or 60,000 times. And I used it when I went to Argentina. And this year, I actually got an actual book deal with a publisher in Berlin called Gestalten. And it's in English and in German, and it's selling pretty well at the moment, and it's been featured by The Guardian. So again, see, when you're speaking to the bloggers, do they have any publishing skills? Have they written any ebooks? There's so much value you can get from the content you get from working with influencers. Another thing that I always think is another indicator of influence is how well are they mentioned? Do they have any brands mentioning about them on social media, or just simply Google their name? This is an example of, again, a feature I had in The Guardian where I was featured about my book about luxury hostels. And I've been featured in a couple of these publications that you might know of, like New York Times and Vanity Fair. So again, for me, influence does not just extend to a person's blog. You'll be surprised at how much the real content creators have influence that go well beyond their blog. So keep that in mind. And sometimes if you're really cool at what you do, one of the things you might do might be named as a mega trend. And this happened in WTM in 2015, where they named it as a mega trend. Another thing, trying to rattle through this, I know I've got 20 million slides. Affiliates. A lot of the bloggers you'll meet have built years and years of knowledge and expertise in their field. They have partnerships with accommodation, with travel insurance, with travel gear. And if you're always asking them about, okay, how can you demonstrate ROI? Ask them if they have any affiliate partnerships. I have an affiliate partnership with Hostelworld. Naturally, I have a big following and people come to my blog about hostels. And this is a snapshot idea of the kind of revenue I've generated for Hostelworld. So this is last year, I generated over €500,000 in turnover, and I earned myself 20,000 euros from affiliate income. That was just through 929 bookings. So again, you ask the bloggers how they demonstrate ROI, and you'll be surprised at what kind of data they have on destinations and on the brands they work with. Wrapping up, the good bloggers not only know how to create content for their own blog, but they can also create useful ideas that can help get your brand out there, your brand story out there. So I've done a couple of really cool campaigns with a group of bloggers called iAmbassador. I'm the creative director, so we've done a little campaign in Scotland for Hogmanay. I don't know if you've been to Hogmanay in Scotland. Great place to celebrate New Year's. And we did a thing with bloggers and we called it Blogmanay. And these are a couple of other projects. I did a collaboration with a film expert who's passionate about James Bond movies, and we did this in Côte d'Azur. And the film, it's called the Film Traveler Côte d'Azur, where there's a series of movies where you revisit all the popular film locations in Côte d'Azur. So I know nothing about film travel, but I knew this guy. So you'll find lots of bloggers are collaborating with other influencers. And consultancy. Years and years of experience of visiting hostels has given me a lot of insights that I can help them build their business. So I went to Dream Hostel in 2012. It's in a beautiful city called Tampere in Finland. And he was struggling with ideas of how to develop his product. And I said, why don't you think about a sauna? Because nothing is more authentic than a Finnish sauna experience. So he took that idea on board and he actually built a sauna inside his hostel. And on top of that, he built a restaurant. And now it's one of the most popular saunas and restaurants in Finland. Last but not least, this is a very cool thing that I did with a destination called Schleswig-Holstein in the northern part of Germany. Predominantly their market is mainly German tourists, so they're not yet ready for the English market. But they were keen to know, from my perspective as a content creator, how well are they geared to the needs of English-speaking tourists. So I did this cool thing where I acted as a tourist along with my partner Sabrina here, and we went around for 2 weeks around this area looking at how well the information literature is in English. So this is one of the key things your tourists will pick up when they go anywhere, is looking at guides, looking at maps. So I was looking at the quality of that content, and I gave them a feedback report to all their partners about how well they were gearing online and offline. So I was also looking on Google how well they're matching those things. So, and last but not least, that's me eating mushrooms, not the kind of mushrooms you might be thinking of, but ecstatic in the fields of Latvia. I did a wonderful project with Lelda here from Magnetic Latvia, and it was a cool project because not only did I create a guide about Latvia, on top of that, I love speaking and sharing knowledge and ideas, and I think a lot of the bloggers in this room who are here, they're also the same thing. So I did a workshop across 4 different universities talking about my life as a professional travel blogger and sharing ideas about how to create great content for their destination. So to wrap it up, when you work with great influencers, you not only get great content, you get a wealth of ideas and insights. You get really, really sophisticated insights that can help shape the future of your brand, of your destination. And also on top of that, you get hopefully someone who's a really nice person to work with and have a beer with. Thank you very much.
I don't need that. Stick on the table. Thanks. Thank you so much, Kash and Julie. We're almost at the end of our seminars for World Travel Market. 3 days seems to go really, really quickly, but Monday morning also seems about a year ago somehow. So there you go, busy few days. Just following on the topic that Kash was talking about, a few examples. We've got some great examples of campaigns that we've worked on and campaigns we haven't worked on, where what they've really done is shown people a lot more than just what you might think of from that brand. So a recent example, we worked on at Traverse. We were very lucky to get to work with Princess Cruises. I unfortunately couldn't go on any of the cruises for some reason, but we sent 2 groups of influencers, and the point of this campaign, a large point, was to show 2 things. One, that cruising is not just for old people, the older generation, which is what a lot of people associate it with, and also that it is a real way to travel. You're not just stuck on a ship. Not that stuck on a ship would be terrible, they're amazing, but you're not just on a ship, you actually get to go to different countries. So there's, if anybody wants to have a look at the way we ran this campaign, there's a hashtag which is Discover with Princess, which was kind of the idea of the campaign. And you can find links to Instagram images, which will obviously then lead you to the bloggers who worked on them. So that's just some nice examples that follow on from what Kash said. I've got loads more. If anybody wants to hear more about them, come and ask me or drop me an email, and I can send you some examples of the way these campaigns are run. We do want to have a few questions, and we have got a few minutes for questions. So what we're saying is just if people put your hand up, we have one here already. A microphone's on its way to you at the moment. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Rano. I'm a freelance videographer, and a question to both of you is, when you start working with your partners and brands, how much exclusivity do you give to your content to them and vice versa?
I'd say it depends on the partnership, but it also depends on you and how much exclusivity you're willing or able to give them. So it's usually on a case-by-case basis, which is something that's good because you can negotiate that if you want it to be more exclusive or less. Most brands are fairly open to discussing it unless they have a reason not to be.
Yep, I totally agree with that. It just depends on how much. If you want to own the content sometimes and put it on your channels, you have to charge a little less. But if you want to give them exclusivity, then you definitely have to charge them a premium rate for that. So.
Yeah. I also think it's a brilliant extra that you can offer people if you're trying to get a campaign over the line, or if you're trying to differentiate yourself. If you have the skills to produce professional level photography and video, then sometimes offer to do some brand work while you're there, because you'd be surprised by how many brands need great photography, but then when they look at the cost of sending a photographer with their team, and all they might need is 10 or so images, and you've got people who can take photos as well as Julie. Kash is great as well, but I know Julie does a bit more with the photography stuff. Then, you know, it's a brilliant thing for you to offer the brand, or for the brand to ask, and quite often it can lead to there being a slightly higher budget because it might come out of a different part of the marketing allocation, so they can use 2 bits. So it's not a case of, oh, you didn't have money, you do now. It comes from different areas. So that's something we always encourage brands to do. Something we did with Princess, we worked on with Top Deck and quite a few other companies in the past. Do we have, I think we have another one here? Cool. We are coming to you guys, just microphones have to make their way around.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Ryan. Work for a company called Med Sailors, and it's an adventure sailing company. A lot of our content was always produced by photographers on board giving memories to people, but now we're trying to work in-house on creating content while working with some influencers. Just wondering how if you've ever experienced working with obviously your own stories while also a brand is at the same time with you creating their stories, maybe content alongside, or videographer, photographer with you on tours and such, or projects.
If I'm correctly understood, are we comfortable with working with content creators in your in-house team? Pretty much. Yeah, I've worked with many destinations and brands where they've sent their videographer along, and while I'm on the job and visiting the destination, they film and created a couple of videos for their own in-house channel, and that's totally fine. And I'm very comfortable presenting to camera. I guess for you, Julie?
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. I'd say the only thing you might want to watch out for is if you're kind of competing for the exact same content all the time, you might start to get in each other's way a little bit, but that doesn't happen all that often, and usually there's enough to go around.
Cool. I love some of the Med Sailors work you've been doing this year with a lot of people we love to work with, so it's been lovely to see and glad you've come down. Do we have any more? I think there was another question in the same area. Thanks.
Yeah, hi guys, my name is Alex. I have a question tailored more towards Instagram marketing and working with Instagram influencers. What would you advise brands to focus on other than the metrics that they receive from the influencers to see how the campaign converts?
Well, I teach classes on Instagram marketing, so hopefully I have a few things to say about that. I would say definitely get the metrics from the influencers. It's good that you said that because it amazes me still how few brands ask me for them. But once you've had those, I would also look at what you can look at based on the data that you have. So if you've had an influencer use Instagram stories, for example, and putting a swipe up link, the link that you give them should be a trackable link if you've done your job right, either in something as simple as Bitly or Hootsuite or something more complex in terms of having parameters and that you can track all the way through your sales funnel. And that's a great way to see if the influencer drove kind of immediate sales to you. You can also have them put links into their profile as well if you're using Instagram feed posts and things like that and tracking clicks from there. And then, obviously anything else that you can measure if you see spikes in your traffic to your website, even if you haven't given them a link or anything you could see that might be correlated.
Yeah, I think trackable links, this is one of my pet frustrations when working with brands and destinations. I had a big brand back company approach me last week wanting to work with me and do an Instagram campaign, and when I asked them if they had an affiliate or tracking link, they said, no, we don't. And I was like, that's incredible, because how can you track your return on investment? So trackable links, definitely. And I think next year, Instagram is introducing booking buttons in their profiles. Business profiles can book straight away.
Yeah, they have shoppable things that are in the pipeline.
I would say as well for Instagram, just do a lot of research. There's a lot of people on Instagram who are not quite as authentic as they might want to tell you. It can be quite a risky platform to work as a large focus of a strategy on. So yeah, do make sure you have a look and really look and ask other people if you need to as well. We had a few other, we got quite a few people. We have a gentleman with his hand up right next to him.
Hi, I'm David. I work for the Daily Mirror and Express on native content. I was just wondering, when it comes to blogging, and obviously with the millennials, you've got a whole generation who've grown up with the idea of being an influencer and a blogger. How do you think it's actually affected the travel industry and the way that customers engage the travel industry now that there's so many people who are going into travel and booking things with that mentality that they would like to get something out of it in terms of content for themselves rather than just being a passive consumer?
I think it's impacted it in a number of ways. I think it's given people a much broader idea of what they would get in a destination. People go in knowing a lot more than they used to. The message is less controlled because anybody can say anything, so there's a lot more kind of flexibility in terms of where people can get their information and what information they do get. And then, like you said, people who are going just as consumers even aren't necessarily just going somewhere to have an experience, they're also going somewhere to share about that experience. And so I think that's changed a lot too, because it's not just influencers, who are sharing about a destination or about their experience when they travel. It's sort of everybody's sharing it and everybody's placing it in very public types of content and media.
I think in many ways the way the influencer landscape to some degree has led to this fragmentation in the mediascape, where you have Instagram, YouTube, and so many sources you can get travel inspiration from. On one hand, you might say it's quite complicated for a consumer, but on the other hand, you have a variety of sources to look at when you plan your trip. But at the same time, the good news coming out is that now there is a need for travel experts, which is why the travel agents are making a big comeback on the high street. And also the bloggers that are really have a sophisticated knowledge of the destination or of their product that they're focusing on. Those are the ones that are going to profit in this new era of confusion of content. So yeah, I think.
Like a million things you could say on that question about how it's impacted, but we don't have enough time to go over it all. That would be a whole session in itself, but it's something I'd love to have a chat with you about. I'm sure we all would. Let's talk. We had a whole bunch of hands go up before. There's another lady just behind the gentleman who just spoke. Thank you.
I wanted to ask, how much is sustainability taken into account when you decide to do these campaigns? I mean, in the case of Florence that you were mentioning about hostels and the big problems we have over there with crowds, and so I would like to understand if you do take into consideration the sustainability and the impact that you might have into destinations.
Yeah, I think it's a huge responsibility that the influencers have now. With great influence comes great responsibility. And you really have to be careful about how you advise your readers where to go. And yes, I do have the Florence video on my blog, but I also have a list of off-the-beaten-path hostels in Italy. And in my book that I just showed, I have actually a dedicated chapter about how you can reduce your footprint and go to these off-the-beaten-path hostels, because not only are you taking the driving away from the main crowded cities, but you're actually going to places and regions where your money can go far and can help the local economy. So that's really, really important. And I think all the influencers or bloggers I know, they're really conscious of that, and they're trying to educate and help shape that. So.
Absolutely. I think it is something that a lot of bloggers are aware of and are conscientious of when they make decisions about what to write about or where to go. And just like Kash said, I mean, a lot of my best performing content on my blog and my Instagram is about sort of hidden places, secret places, under the radar places. And I think that's something that people really enjoy, because while a lot of destinations are suffering from sort of over tourism, there are a lot of places that are kind of unsung heroes. And I think that that's something that we as bloggers can really work to champion and bring new kind of tourism and new investment into those areas too.
Thank you. I think we have time for maybe two more questions. Do we have any on? We have a gentleman down there, and we'll try and get one from this side of the room afterwards. I know I'm looking a little bit that way. Do you feel free?
Hi, my name's Chris from Latin America, travel specialist through Aventura. We've kind of spoken internally about using Facebook, Instagram, etc. Like probably a lot of tour operators in our industry. Our target market tends to be sort of 50 and upwards, or between 50 and maybe 70. And it's very easy to sort of disregard them as they don't use Instagram, they don't use Facebook. I just wondered if you two have any experience in working with this market, where how you would sort of justify it if we were to ask you to help us, for example, because I think it's an area we're missing out on, but it's probably because we don't trust it enough as much as more sort of traditional media.
Yeah, I'd say I hear that a lot. And I spoke at a big conference in Athens earlier this year that was basically focused on that same question, as most of the demographic of the company that was running the conference was in that 50-plus market. And they were wondering, is this even worth it to be on social media? And I would say absolutely. And I think you need to just do your research into where your specific demographic spends their time on social media and really focus your time and resources there. For a lot of people, that is Facebook. It might be for you, it might not be, depending on what kind of niches within that demographic you're looking for. But I would say, again, do your research. And then once you've figured out where they are, I would just test out content and keep testing it until you find something that really resonates with them. Because sometimes it's not just a matter of finding where they are, it's also finding what resonates with them.
I know a fantastic lady, her name is Janice Walsh, she's known as the Solo Traveler, and she is Canadian and she focuses on the 50-plus female solo travel market. And one of her best tools for reaching out to her client base and readers is newsletters. That has the biggest click-through rate over any form of social media. So if you're looking at that area, I definitely would look at, obviously you have a newsletter, just really focusing on that because that can be really, really good.
First comment I get on any post on Facebook or Instagram or a blog post I write is from my mum. She's in her 60s, so these people are definitely using social media. I genuinely, from speaking to my parents, so much of what they base on their purchase stuff comes from research online, which leads to blogs as well. So maybe not so much on Instagram or YouTube, but there's definitely a huge market for online content marketing for the older or the more advanced generation. One more question. We okay to do? God, there was like 10 hands up before, guys. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Sacha. I work for Host Liverpool, which provides vacation rentals in Liverpool. I just wanted to know the lag effect or how long-term the campaigns are when you work with a brand, because I know sometimes on Instagram it can be quite short-term to get a big spike and then it can be forgotten. Is that what you find? Or when you work on promoting on different platforms, is there a different effect and how long-term are they? And if I was to use an influencer, how often would I need to use them is the question, I suppose.
I think that question depends on a couple of things. I mean, one is what is the campaign and what's it promoting? If it's something that's a flash sale, then obviously something like Instagram is great because it is kind of a quicker thing and you see the big spike and it goes away, but it doesn't matter that it went away because it was a flash sale. If it's something that's longer term, then you might want to focus on something like a blog where because of SEO, the blog post might get seen thousands and thousands of times every month for the next 20 years. And so I always say, tailor your actual partnerships and your strategy to what you're actually trying to achieve. And if it's something quick, do a channel that's kind of quick and a burst. And if it's something longer term, then I'd go with something that has a much sort of slower burn, so to speak.
I would add to that and just say that when you're looking with bloggers, I always say it's not a one-night stand. It's a long-term relationship. You want to work with somebody who takes a passion in your company and brand, not for just 1 month or one little campaign, but for the next 5-6 years. I did a campaign with the German National Tourism Office where I created a series of youth guides back in 2012. And I was just looking at the stats of my Dresden guide, which is just a 48-hour guide to Dresden. And after publishing it after 5 years, it's had its best ever traffic year. And one of my pet peeves is that lots of brands don't follow up and ask content creators after they've done the campaign 1, 2, 3, 4 years down the road that, oh, by the way, what are the stats on that post still? And it's this short-term tactical approach towards content marketing that sometimes can be backfired. So think long-term when you're approaching a blogger and influencer.
I'd say one of our seminars that we did yesterday was all about the importance of not putting all your eggs in one basket when it comes to working with influencers. We talked specifically about how the different platforms can work really well together to create an instant rush and then kind of feed through to blogs, videos, podcasts, even lots of other things. We will be putting that up because I did that presentation on our website. So if you check back in a week or two, you can find the notes from that as well as the video, which you might find useful because it's basically 45 minutes answering that question. So it should be, hopefully it'll be useful to you.
And I'm a huge Liverpool supporter, and I make an annual pilgrimage to Anfield every year, so I can see you every year and come and say hello and see your place. So say hello to me later.
It's a good game yesterday, was it? Right. On that note, we are going to have to wrap up. Can we have a big round of applause? Say thank you for Julie and Kash. Guys, thanks so much everyone who's come to our seminars. We had 5 of them this year, as well as the speed networking. It's been really great to see them so well attended again. We can't wait to be back here next year. We are doing loads of stuff with Traverse next year. If anybody wants to find out about them, we have a brand new video-based conference over in Hamburg. We have our main conference, Traverse 19, in Trentino, Italy, and a brand new huge event in London next September, which we're going to be formally announcing in the next week or 2. But until we see you at something else, thank you so much, and have a great last half day. Time for a beer.